To my session, my name is David, Edward Garcia. I'm honored that you all are here this morning. How many of you heard me yesterday in the showcase? Let me see your hand. Cool. I'm glad that you came to listen to the middle of the story. I would love to get to your school. What I have here, I just have a few like business index cards, so if you want one afterwards, I'll have some. And I have these headshots from like 10 years ago. I look like I'm auditioning for Twilight. And so, if y'all want some of these, I'll give these out. I'm really trying to get rid of them, so please feel free. But as you heard my story yesterday, my name is David Edward Garcia, and I am from the southern, from South Texas, right on the border. And I grew up in a city that's 96% Hispanic. And so, the way I grew up, I didn't grow up like speaking English or Spanish. Like in the neighborhood I grew up in, like everyone just mixes everything. It sounds like this. Préstame las keys de tu car, voy para la store, voy bien hungry, no tengo food, vámonos, let's go, bye-bye, por favor. Right? And if you understood what I said, you probably grew up in the same situation. Some of the other people are like, what? So that's how we grew up. I thought everybody spoke like that. I thought, my world was, small and limited. And as I mentioned yesterday, see, I think I suffered from being, an in-the-middle person. And, I lived maybe about 400 feet away, or 400 meters away from housing projects. So the school I went to had low income, middle income, and had really wealthy people. And sometimes I felt like I was disadvantaged because the rich people, their parents would pay for everything. The people that lived 400 feet away from me, they had, the government would pay for their stuff. There was programs like No Child Left Behind and financial aid. And I felt like I was kind of in the middle. And I felt punished for being an in-the-middle kid. I was like, why do I have to work? Why does college have to be 6 years for me? Why do I have to work late at night and go to school early? And so I was kind of an in-the-middle kid. And that was where my story comes from. I wasn't a problematic kid, as I mentioned to you. I had problems in 8th grade because I was a hyper kid. I wasn't a troublemaker. And I remember, the hot topic today is bullying. And I remember, I went through bullying. When I was in 8th grade, I was in school with this guy named Mike. And maybe you know Mike. Maybe you went to school with Mike. Mike is that guy that in 8th grade, he already had a full mustache. He had been in 8th grade several times. His wife dropped him off in school every morning. So one day, Mike, when I was in 8th grade, Mike came walking towards me. And Mike came walking with that thug walk. You know what I'm talking about? He came walking like something's about to go down. He came walking at me like this. And I saw him, and I was little. I was in 8th grade, so I was and Mike came in my face, and he goes, "Hey David, I hear you be talking about me." And I was like, "Michael, what language are you speaking?" And he's like, "Shut up!" In the middle school, he just decked me right there. And I remember thinking wow, Mike, we can talk about this. We don't have to be aggressive. Shut up! Twice. And I remember thinking, man, Mike, you're good. You could go to the Olympics if you graduate. And so Mike never made the Olympics, and he never graduated. But this is this is my story. It's very similar. Today, people are talking about bullying and all these things. But I went through that, and I'm telling you, I was an in-the-middle kid. And when I was 16 years old, my mother had a heart-to-heart with me. And she said, "Son, I want you to promise me that no matter what happens, you're going to go on to college." And she said, "I never went on to college because I married your father when I was young." She got married when she was 18. And she said, "I don't regret it because I raised 2 beautiful kids." And I said, "Mom, you only raised one because my sister's ugly." And my mother said, "I thought the same thing." She didn't, but we know she thought it. And so when I was 17, I had to move to Houston, Texas. I moved here, and I graduated from a school in Katy ISD, a school called Katy, and May Creek Rams, and it was on Grashki Lane. And I remember I graduated here in Houston, but when I was 2 weeks away from graduation, my teacher gave us an assignment. And it was it was right after state testing was done. And it was when you're just kind of going to school just because they need attendance. So they give you blow-off assignments, right? They give you crossword puzzles and things like that. So it was one of those blow-off assignments. But the teacher said, "Look, I want you to write on a journal what you're going to do with your life. In just a few weeks, you're going to enter into the real world. Tell me what you want to do with your life. You're going to go to college. You're going to go to work full-time. If you're going to do both. Tell me your dreams. Tell me your fears." So I wrote on that journal, I said, I have a desire to go on to college, but I'm afraid I don't have what it takes to make it. That teacher promised she wasn't going to judge anybody. And she fulfilled 97% of that promise. She didn't judge anybody in that class except for one. In front of the whole class, she said, Mr. Garcia, you are going to have a hard time in college. And I remember thinking, like, why? Are you going to go too? Like, why is it going to be hard? And so this is what I was, experiencing when I went into the adult world, what they call the real world. And so I was 18 years old, and I packed up, the things that I had $400, and I drove to Florida. And I started college in Pensacola. And so it wasn't long before $400 went like flat broke. And so I remember I got to the point, I was a teenager, and I had to go apply for food stamps. And people back home were like, David, we don't believe in food stamps. And I was like, well, neither do I, but I don't believe in being hungry either. And so I had to go, and I had to, apply. I had to go to food banks. I remember my roommates were like, hey, dude, did you get any food from the food bank? And we had cheese that just was a white box that said cheese. We had cereal that said cereal. And so this is how I had to survive. And I remember this was how it all began. And I'm sharing this because when you begin, aiming for success, all you have oftentimes is your belief in yourself. And I remember when I was young, I was a teenager, and they would say, I had angry, frustrated adults that would say, these are the best years of your life. You better enjoy these years because these are the best years of your life. And I'm thinking, if this is the best of my life, being broke, having to go to a food bank and get cheese that says cheese, right? And having dudes make fun of me, and this is the best of my life, then I'm in trouble. Right? And so, but this is, how I was trying to survive. So I met this girl, fell in love with this girl, beautiful girl, and, we started talking, then we started dating, we started getting serious, and we started talking about the M word. We started talking about marriage. And so, I was head over heels in love, and so this girl was like, well, David, what are you going to do? You have these dreams of you want to go on to college, and you want to finish and learn languages. She said, what about me? I was like, we can do this together. She said, what do you mean, David? You want to drag me all over the world? I was like, I'm not going to drag you. We're going to fly. Right? And so, but I remember this girl got upset. And she's like, no, I'm not going to go with you. If you want a relationship with me, we're going to live here. We're going to live next to my parents, and that's it. And she said, but if you don't want, if you want to follow this dream thing, then you got to go on without me. And I was like, holy shenanigans. If she can give me that ultimatum before we're married, then what's going to happen after? So to me, it was a no-brainer. I said, amen, brother. All right. And so that's when I was like, I had to make a decision that I had to take, I had to follow what was in my heart. And I had to part ways. And it was a painful thing, a painful breakup. I went through depression. But I remember when we were kind of ending it, she was kind of mocking me. This was a long time ago. This was, 2004. It was 2004. We're supposed to get married in 2005. It's a long time ago. We're young. And I remember she was mocking me, and she said, oh, so you want to learn these languages? You want to go to this school? When are you going to do that? By 2010? See, because when you're young, when you're 18, 23 seems forever away, right? I was talking to somebody earlier, and they're like, dude, 30? That's so old. 30 is so old. Right? Because when you're young, 10 years from now seems forever. So she was mocking me, saying, oh, when are you going to do all that? By 2010, learn your languages and get your degrees? And this is how I began in my journey. And I'm sharing this with you because maybe some of you are faced with the same desire. You want to do great things with your life. Man, you're hearing things about success, you're hearing about happiness, you're hearing about money, and something happens on the inside of you. Possibilities are opening up. But then you also have the reality of, man, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Will this college degree get me the money that I want? What about the people that don't support me? See, this is what I was facing. I was facing these two forces. On the one hand, I wanted success. I wanted the dream that was inside of me. I wanted to be happy. But on the other hand, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. If you don't do what I want, I don't love you. And I was facing these two forces. And when I was younger, my dream was to help young people and kids all over the world, because I thought, the only ones that face this are kids. But as I grew up, I realized, adults face this just as well. And so I've been able to synthesize into 3 keys, okay, 3 steps, how you can obtain your dream, how you can obtain the success you want, the happiness you want, the health you want. I've been able to synthesize it down to 3 keys, and that's what I'm going to share with you right now. Now, if you want, you can get this in my book, for free. Go to davidedwardgarcia.com. You can get my book for free. Okay? So you can get what I'm about to teach you on my website, davidedwardgarcia.com. So I want to give you 3 keys. All right? To be successful, to be happy, to be energized, to live your greatest life. Now, I'm going to give you 3 keys. If you're ready, say, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Number 1, okay? You've got to stay focused. Okay? You've got to stay focused. Now, the old model of education was the following. If you pass, you're smart. If you fail, you're dumb. That was problematic for me because I was a flunky. And I wasn't just like, I failed a class here and there. I mean, I was like a good flunky. I failed algebra. I failed biology. And listen, if you had trouble with science outside of being a scientist, you'll never use the atomic chart in your whole life. Never. The frog dissection, you'll never use it. I don't even know why we did that, okay? I failed that. I failed typing. Thank you. I failed typing. But the one class I don't understand how I failed. I am from Laredo, Texas. I grew up 5 minutes from Mexico. I have a Mexican dad. I have a Mexican citizenship with like a green passport and the snake and everything. I know the Mexican national anthem, Mexicano, Sagrito de Guerra, all that. Spent my summers going to Mexico, still a cousin of Guadalajara. And the one class I don't understand how I failed, Spanish. All right? Now, my sister, I make fun of my sister, but the truth is that my sister is brilliant, she's gorgeous, she's unbelievable. My older sister, Elizabeth, my parents would always brag about her. She finished her college, she was one of those privileged students. She finished her college in 4 years, scholarship, 3.93, holding a full-time job. She turned over with a full-time teaching job, did her MBA in 2 years, 3.93, summa cum laude, delta, all the Greek alphabet, everything. She was amazing, right? And so my parents were always bragging about Lizzie. Oh, Elizabeth, she's so amazing. Even her name, it means gift from God. And we are so proud of Elizabeth. She did her school, she makes us so proud. And this is David. David has a big imagination. See, college was difficult for me. I took a 4-year college degree and I condensed it down into 9. All right? But here's the thing, students, I found my genius. And, if you heard the guy yesterday, the sweet spot guy, every one of you has a talent. And when you find your talent, when you find your genius, that dude's amazing. I got his book. I was like, can you sign it? He's amazing. When you find your genius, that's when you become unstoppable. You see, psychology is teaching us that every single one of you is a genius. Okay? And there's a psychologist from Harvard, and he broke it down into 8 domains. I wish I remembered his name. Any of y'all know who I'm talking about? Okay. So he broke it down into 8 domains. And every single one of you is a genius in at least one area. Some maybe 2. All right. How many of you love science or math? Let me see your hands. You love science and math. All right. How many of y'all will just use the calculator on your iPhone instead? Let me see your hands. Okay. How many of y'all love to read? How many of y'all would rather watch the movie? Okay? How many of y'all love sports and physical education? You're good at it. Okay? How many of y'all would rather play Nintendo Wii or Xbox? See, so even that's a talent. Listen, and when you find your genius, man, things start to click. You see, I used to think, man, that's so dumb. But that's why college, once you get out of your general education, that's why college is amazing. Because if you want to focus on speaking, there's a degree for that. If you want to focus on computers, there's a degree for that. You can find your genius and focus on that. When I found my genius, see, I failed classes, I failed Spanish. And where were the adults that came and said, David, let's spend $400 or $500 and take you to a counselor so we can find out your learning style? Where were my parents? I'm not faulting them. They were under the old model. But never once did my mother or my father take a week of their life and go to school with me and say, maybe this teacher is demotivating. It was always me feeling, I'm so dumb. I'm just not like Lizzie. But then it clicked and I found my genius. And all it took was 8 weeks being in Switzerland, boom, speaking French fluently. j'ai parlé en français sans aucun problème là-bas, parce que j'ai appris après le bout de semaine, parce que ça, c'était mon génie. J'étais intelligent pour ça, pas pour l'école, mais j'étais intelligent pour ça, parce que j'ai trouvé ça que le domaine de mon où j'étais un expert. I found my genius. I found out the domain where I was an expert. Sao Paulo, Brazil. After 4 weeks, that's all I needed. I was giving speeches in Portuguese after 4 weeks. Italy, after 5 weeks, the lady was mad. She's like, why do you want to learn Italian in 6 weeks? She goes, all of you Americans, you just want to pay your money and learn a language, learn a culture in 6 weeks. It's not possible. And I said, it is for me, because I'm David Edward Garcia. Yeah? And when you find your genius and people say, you can't do that, you can say, you know what? No, you can't do that. Because you're not me. But you're confident in your genius. There's a lot of stuff I can't do. I can't cook. Last time I tried to cook, I almost burned the house down. All right? There's a lot of things I can't do. If I'm on a date and we get a flat tire, okay? The girl's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, you better start walking, girl. I got a plan. I'm a runner, okay? I'll see you at the next gas station. I can't carry you. I've only got enough strength for one of us, all right? See, but that's not my genius. That's why I have roadside assistance. See, but I got my genius, okay? All right, so when you stay focused and you find your genius, man, and this is where the money follows. See, I used to think, man, if I'm a lawyer, if I'm a doctor, that's where the money follows. No, the money follows when you find your passion. See, you see guys on TV wearing whitey tighties and go-go boots and running around a ring and tackling each other. All right, that's weird. But they're good at it. They're WWF and they make over $1 million a year. All right? You try going to your campus on Monday with whitey tighties and go-go boots and see if people pay attention to you. But they're good at it. Okay? The dog guy, the dog whisperer. That dude made a fortune just talking to dogs. He found his genius. All right? And now some of you say, yeah, but money's not important. All right. Let me teach you some science. Okay? Let me ask the question. Does money buy happiness? Who says yes? Who says money does not buy happiness? Let me tell you what science teaches us. Money does buy happiness. Up to $75,000 a year. Okay? So if you're making less, your happiness is down here. Up to $75,000, this is where you reach an optimal happiness level. After, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million, it just kind of baselines. Why? If you're making this much money, you can pay your bills, you can pay your car, you can have clothes, you can have heat, you can have food. You think you're going to be happy if you're hungry all the time? No. Do you think you're going to be happy if you're always sick? So this is important. You got to start thinking about these things now. Find your genius and stay focused. All right? Top 2 reasons why relationships fail. Marriages fail. Who knows the top 2 reasons why marriages fail? And?
Infidelity.
Huh?
Infidelity.
Money and communication. All right? Infidelity comes sometimes because there's no communication. Hey, I'll go communicate with someone else. All right? Money and communication. All right, so stay focused. All right? So, here we go. So, if you want to find success, you got to stay focused. Find your genius and stay focused. Number 2, all right, this one's important. Now, how many of you heard the following?